Hi everyone, my name is Eric and I'm here to talk about simplifying website workflows with Tugboat. Just an introduction, I work for University of California, San Francisco. We have lots of websites, roughly 2,000 websites, a little over that probably. A lot of them still are on Drupal 7 and that's just the way things are. And we still have a lot of Drupal 10 websites going on. We don't have any Drupal 11 websites, I think. Used to be a full stack developer. I don't know how this happened, but now I'm mostly back end. So that's just how things go. So I assume if you're here, you might know what Tugboat does or what it's supposed to do. Raise your hands if you don't know anything about Tugboat. Oh wow, quite a lot of people. I think you're lying. All right, well, Tugboat is like a continuous integration or continuous delivery software. For most people, I think that doesn't mean a lot of things. Continuous integration is kind of like a tool that is basically just a tool that allows you to, like, every time you build your website or commit new code, it basically spins off a service that builds your code and then launches it on a website where you can basically either put it through a pipeline of other tools, like you might have like a testing suite, or you might have like, well, in the case of Tugboat, you can actually do like previews of things, so you can hand a URL off to somebody and say, hey, go look at my URL, is this kind of what you were thinking about? And then the customer can go like, this isn't what I wanted at all, this is totally like, no. And then it's kind of like a back and forth thing. So but in comparison to other like continuous integration software like Jenkins or Travis CI, like a lot of the other tools on the market, they only kind of do like the integration part. They don't really provide you with links. So that's the difference between Tugboat and some of the other tooling, is like it just gives you an opportunity to, hey, here's a preview link. So if you're working on like branch changes or feature commits, it gives you an opportunity to basically share those branches with people. So one of the things that you want to do to get started with Tugboat is connect it to a service. So typically you'd connect it to your repo. Your repo could be GitHub, or it could be Gitlab, or it could be, I don't even know what other services there are, I guess. What? Bitbucket, I don't know, SVG or so still talking about that one, yeah.
SVN.
SVN, yes, SVN, that's what I was thinking. So yeah, you want to connect to your source control. So essentially, it's pretty easy to do. You basically sign in with your authorization. It's basically you just kind of like you log in. It'll give you like it's almost like an OAuth thing where you log in and you say, I want to connect my GitHub service with my Tugboat service. So you authenticate and you say, I want to authenticate Tugboat to use myself as a provider. And then you basically have your provider option. You can say GitHub. And then if you're like me, there's several different UCSF organizations. So you got to pick the right organization for the repo that you're connecting to. In this case, I'm connecting to UCSF Web Services. And then you can just select the repo that you want to connect to. So that's the first step of connecting to Tugboat. From there, it's a simple setup. You just kind of say what you want to do. Like, do I want to build a pull request automatically? So every time you, I don't know if you're familiar with GitHub workflows, but you can set up pull requests, which are kind of like, I'm not merging the code into the main branch, or I'm not merging the code into a release branch, but I'm requesting to merge the code into the main branch or release code. So it's a release. It's basically like a pull request, which is like you're requesting to merge the code. And so what you can do is you can say, every time I'm requesting to merge the code, build a preview. So if you're like a developer and you're creating a new feature for a client, and you want them to look at the feature, but the feature isn't ready to go into production, this is where you can say, okay, I have this pull request out there, and I'm going to show them this code, but it's not actually going to be merged. It's just going to sit there as a pull request until you're ready to merge it. So that's a nice thing. And you can also set them up to do drafts. Like if you're on GitHub, let's see if I got GitHub open here. If you're in GitHub and you have a branch going in here, you can see on this one, I'll make the screen bigger. This person, did it not go? It's, oh, I'm in slide mode still, right? Okay. Oh, you can see it now. Okay, great. It swaps out of, I guess, mirror mode when you're in slide presentation mode. But you can see that this person has all these drafts open. And I guess what they're doing is, if you go to Tugboat, I gotta find which tab is the right Tugboat tab. So you can see, here you are, you have all these tugboats. Never mind that they're failed. You can ignore that. I don't know why their tugboats are failing. But I didn't set their tugboat instances up, so that's not my problem. Each one of those PRs has created a tugboat instance for preview. So that's where that came from. So go back to play from current slide. Okay, and then so other features that you could set up is obviously rebuilding if you've made changes, deleting pull requests if something happened to them, or I don't know why you'd want to delete them automatically. Oh, if they're merged, you can delete them. And then one of the things that I really liked from a feature standpoint is this bottom one, which is to post the preview links in the pull request comments. So when you actually get a pull request, I don't have an image of this. I'm going to go back to, oh man, you're going to see all sorts of stuff I don't want you to see. But we'll go to this page. Here we go. So basically in this thing, this is basically a Tugboat bot, and it posts the links. And it'll post like, here's your Lighthouse links, here's your dashboard links, here's your visual QA links, and it just posts that back into your GitHub status page, which is a cool feature. So one of the problems that we have at UCSF is we have a lot of, so Tugboat's a cool product. People are using it. How do we make it better? So one of the things that we're doing at UCSF is we have a lot of multi-site repos. Acquia is one of our main hosting providers. So we have doc routes that have 70 plus, folders in them. And you may have a developer who's working on 2 or 3 projects at a time, another developer who's also working on 2 or 3 projects at a time. So what do we do as a developer to make it so Tugboat is easier to set up and easier to use? And so I had this vision probably over a year ago now to make Tugboat super simple, to make it like a standard at UCSF. And I've been trying to build this vision for a while. So here we are in, a couple years later. And so I came up with this idea that there's this one YAML file to rule them all. And the YAML file is called the Tugboat multiplex YAML file. I didn't want to call it multi-site YAML file because that was just repetitive. And basically, right now it only works with the Acquia API because that's all I had time for. But you could easily extend it out to work with pretty much any service provider. If you had other service providers that did multi-site hosting, or you wanted to make it work with Pantheon, I'm sure you can totally do it. But it's basically just a definition file, like what sites am I currently working on. I have a default website, which is like the base website that Tugboat will be using. I might have another website. Alumni is a website I work on a lot, so there's a website there. Together's another website I work on a lot. So it's basically just a definition of like, okay, as a developer, I'm working on some sites. I have my PR set up, and in my PR, I'm going to put this Tugboat multiplex YAML file in the folder. And then I have some other code that I've written specifically that's going to basically process this YAML file and configure Tugboat properly to import the databases into the Tugboat instances, copy the settings.local.php files for each multi-site folder instance. If you know how Drupal multi-site works, you've got to have a settings file for each folder. And then also Tugboat requires some alias setups in the sites.php folder, so you need to define an alias, because if you look at a Tugboat, I need to exit the presentation again, sorry, 1 second. If you look at the Tugboat instance, can you all see that? It's kind of small. But the Tugboat instances kind of have funny names to them. So you have to point the folder name, obviously to the site folder that you're working in. So that's the other issue that you would have. So that's what my script does. My script is basically an automation tool, and it's going to basically set your site up nice and easy. And you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, if you have too many websites in the folder, the build process might take too long and time out. If your database files are huge, that could be a problem. So ideally, you want to kind of keep it to some sensible degree, 3 or 4 maybe sites per PR would make sense. So let me just show you what I have done here. So if we go back to the PR, this is my Tugboat 10 PR, which is, I've been working on this for a couple days now. And sadly, even with the updated code that I just pushed, the Lighthouse reports and visual difference reports are not working still. I don't know why. I was hoping to talk to the Drupal people. So what it's done is it's created these 3 environments. So I have Tugboat 10.
So it works. You do have environments that are running.
Yeah, I have environments that are running. And not only that, but if I go back to the 10 Tugboat environment, I do have it giving me little helper ULIs. So if I need to log in, there's some other issue that I've run into where even though I've set the stage file proxy information, sometimes stage file proxy just doesn't work for some reason. But if you go in and resave it, it starts working. So it got set. You can see the details of the site details are there, but for whatever reason it doesn't run. But if I go back now and I go back to the home page, the images should start loading. Although in this case, I don't know why that one image isn't loading. Nope. That one's taking me to the live site, so that's not a good example. But yeah, so, and then if you go back to, where did I go? I keep losing my previews. So then if I go to Together, here's my Together build. And if I go to Alumni, here's my alumni build. So I have 3 different sites that are being built. Obviously, I can't show you the build process. It's not very exciting. It's just kind of like the scripts run. I'll share kind of like what the script does real quickly. I was trying to get some of the other demos going before the presentation. I did want to show a live demo of the visual differences and the lighthouse features of Tugboat, which I think are interesting, but for whatever reason they don't seem to want to work right now. But basically what my scripts do is what I told you they do. They just kind of like set up the databases. So there's like an Acquia request script that basically just makes a request to the Acquia API, pulls down the database for the specific database that you've listed in the YAML file, imports that into a new database that's created for that specific database. And then there's a settings.local.txt file that's actually just a template. And the template has like a placeholder text that gets stripped out with the actual database name and then saved into the folder so that you have your database. And then the site aliases all get created with this Tugboat service token. And this service token ends up being this weird string. And this is kind of an ephemeral string, so it's going to change on a regular basis, so you can't kind of rely on it to be a consistent thing. That's why it's convenient to have those preview URLs added to your GitHub status page, because they'll change. If you put your comments in your Jira tickets or whatever, they're not going to be consistent over the long term. So that is that. Since I'm in between stories, does anyone have any questions about the process right now? Yeah?
Yeah. How long does it take to do a build?
Right now, about 3 minutes to do a build. Not very long. I've set up base previews. So the base preview is based on the commit from the release branch, and then I guess it caches some things. It just makes the build process happen a little bit faster, but it can take time. And then the amount of how large the database is going to also add time to that. But it's not too long. I would say for a brand new build, like 7 minutes to if you have a base preview build set up, about 3 minutes. So it's pretty similar to GitHub or other services. Yeah.
Is there access to it via Drush or command line commands to the environments?
So there is a terminal option in Tugboat. I actually had never tried it. But since we're here, we could do it.
Do it live!
What's this do? Oh, here, look. Yeah, so if I go to doc.root and then sites, ls, yep, there's everything there. If I go to, so I only set up 3 sites, so I'm assuming those are the only ones that work. If I try Drush L, alumni, ucsf.edu, we'll just do a status. Oh, Drush isn't found.
Vendor bin brush.
Yeah, so I might have to do vendor bin trash -L on the way. You can set up aliases. I know in the Tugboat documentation there is an option to do that for the terminal services. Oh, that did work. So, yeah, so I guess you do have terminal access. I'm not sure why some of these other things aren't working. I did set up, following the guidelines. So, just to go over the config YAML, which is actually something I didn't discuss yet. For the general configuration of your Tugboat environment, you need to have what's called a config YAML. The config YAML needs to be inside your .tugboat folder. The .tugboat folder is also a requirement for Tugboat. The config YAML basically defines the services that Tugboat will be running. Typically, it'll be a web server service of some sort and a database service of some sort. You may have other services in there. There's actually a PHP MyAdmin service that you can add. I just found out about today. If you wanted to export database dumps or whatever, you can do that. So for me, I was trying to get this the aliases and the visual diff configuration working. So when you're setting up visual differences in Tugboat, you can define aliases that you want to create screenshots of, and those screenshots will be compared to the base, what do they call it? The base, losing my train of thought here. When you're going into settings, your base preview. So when you define a base preview, you're basically saying this is the base preview for all the branches that you're building off of. So I set up release 10 to be my base preview for the other environments in the Git repo. And then ideally, because this Tugboat 10 branch is a branch off of the base preview, then if there were picture differences, like if I changed something in the template and then it did a new build, ideally one of these URLs, like the people page, would show me any sort of difference between the original people page and the new people page. And if I go into the docs, like I said, I didn't want to show people the docs that much, but unfortunately that's how my previews go. So yeah, so you set up your URLs in your config.yaml file, and then you can also run some things like timeouts and other things, like if you have JavaScript rendering on your page, and then you can see it before and after. So this would be like the base preview here. This would be your difference, and then your after, and it'll give you like an actual percentage. I don't know how useful that is. Calculates the percentage. And then I guess you can set up pass-fail tests, like if it goes over a certain threshold, like your test failed. So I don't know if you really screw up your template, like, over 50%, my test is failing. That might be a real life case. Like, I don't see that happening too much, but I guess it's possible. And then there's also tests that you can set up for tablet versus desktop, but I haven't gone that far, obviously, because I can't get my visual diff system to work at all. The other cool thing about it was a Lighthouse integration, which I also tried to configure. Haven't gotten working yet. Lighthouse configuration is basically just a report on, it's kind of like a performance report. So it's the same sort of performance report you get from your browser if you were doing Lighthouse testing from your browser. So it would give you things like the performance of first contentful paint, the speed index of your site, your accessibility scores. I don't know where that went. What happened? That sort of thing. It gives you like other pages and scores on other pages as well. I'll have to connect with the Lulubot person after the after the presentation to figure out why those things aren't
You
working.
have a working environment that is running all that stuff right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you demo that?
Oh, no, we don't have a working environment that has any of that
I
working.
thought the limited shift environment.
They haven't set up Lighthouse or, yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
How long does it take you from like beginning to like getting to those tests done? How long did that take?
Oh, I was working till midnight for like 4 days straight.
But that's saying that you, I mean, and you're not doing that as your main job. It's
But-
just that you're doing it under hobby time.
But the code is now done, so like it's like there, and now it's like, you know, it's gonna be used across all of our doc reads now, so that's nice.
No, that's great, but I was just wondering how much time it takes to build that. I think for me, every time I think about test code, it's like, well, how much time do I have to take to build this stuff before I start building it?
Oh, well, to set up the environment now, it'll be much easier because the scripts are already written. So all anyone would have to do is now set up the Tugboat multiplex file,
You're saying anyone working in this repo?
this repo or any of our other repos. Like, yeah, and ideally we might be able to share something like this with the community at large. So the other thing too is the config file. Tugboat does have a lot of what do you call it, like starter configurations. So if you have another project that you want to get working on, say you're working on WordPress or Laravel or even Adobe Experience Manager, you could, you know, fairly quickly spin up a Tugboat environment. It's just how long does it take you to get like it configured the way you want it. And I think Drupal is kind of a special case, or at least multi-site Drupal is a special case because it, like a lot of platforms don't have that multi-site stuff built in. So like when you're working on a WordPress website, you're just working on one WordPress website, right? So you're not really deploying 20 websites at a time. So that was kind of a special case project. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes it harder on multi-site is if we do an upgrade, everybody gets it, and it breaks one person's site, then how do we back out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so this lets us test those things ahead of time before we send them on forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, so how do you use this along with other sort of testing processes, like if you have unit tests that run or integration tests, like what does this doesn't run like
You-
or unit test, right?
You could certainly run those tests inside the Lighthouse or inside Tugboat. Like you can set that up inside your config YAML. Like the config YAML is very flexible, so if you wanted to run behat tests or any sort of other like Cypress tests, you could certainly run those tests and set those up inside that YAML file. But
Good idea though, I mean, or which is there a better spot for that?
I mean, I think James from Tugboat, I think he showed me a demonstration where they did like a Circle CI integration where the Circle CI ran a bunch of the other tests and then the Tugboat thing ran the previews. So it's really what you want to do and how many different like containers you want to run. Like, I don't know what the advantage to having separate systems for each is.
So for us, Tugboat's more about UAT. Like, once someone asks for a feature, you build the feature, and they're like, hey, is this what you wanted? And then they can say, yeah, that works the way I want it to, and then we can add it to the whole request. Instead of having to be like, oh, crap, we have to take this out.
And the thing is, this integrates really nicely with GitHub. So, like, if you wanted, you can have your GitHub tests run, the Cypress tests and the Behat tests and all that. And then if those tests failed, then it wouldn't maybe it wouldn't even start the Tugboat test, right? So that would maybe be your preliminary test that you would do in the GitHub Actions environment, and then you'd have it just cancel the Tugboat process. That's something that you can do. Yep.
All right, sorry if I missed this. So the visual, the visual diffing, did you say you were still working on that? Did you get this to work? Or?
I didn't get it to work yet. Yeah. I know it's something that's available, and it just, for whatever reason, in my environment, it doesn't seem to be building. Like,
this is the most interesting aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, once I figure it out, I'll let you know what the problem is, or what the problem was. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm curious how, like, when you bring down the database, do you also bring down the files to the site?
No, that's right. For Drupal, we're using stage file proxy, which is basically like a file proxy thing, so that you don't have to rsync. But you could, if you wanted to, like inside this file, I've set up a server location. So if you wanted to set up rsyncing between the servers, you could do that and just have it sync files between servers. That would be another way to set it up. Anything else?
No, I forgot.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.